List, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad. And on this episode, we'll be exploring number 64 from AFI's 100 Years, 100 Passions, the 100 Greatest Love Stories of All Time.
All right, and number 64 is Marty, directed by Delbert Mann, starring Ernest Borgnine and Betsy Blair, released in 1955.
So, the synopsis for this romantic drama are as follows. Marty Paletti, played by Ernest Borgnine, is an Italian-American butcher living in the Bronx with his mother. Good-natured but socially awkward, the unwed 34-year-old faces constant badgering from friends and family to settle down. Not averse to marriage, but disheartened by a lack of prospects, Marty has resigned himself to a life of bachelorhood. One Saturday night, to appease his mother, Marty goes to the Starlight Ballroom. He comes across quiet, unassuming schoolteacher Clara Snyder, played by Betty Blair, weeping on the roof after being abandoned by her blind date. They quickly form a connection and spend the night dancing, walking the streets, and talking in a diner. Marty tells her about his ambitions to buy the butcher shop he works in, and she about an opportunity at another school. They listen and encourage each other. They end up at Marty's home, where they awkwardly express their mutual attraction. His mother arrives, and after a somewhat antagonistic conversation, he takes Clara home by bus. He promises to call her the next day after Sunday Mass. Ecstatic, he runs through traffic and catches a cab home. The next day, everyone in his life derides Clara for her plainness and try to convince him to forget her. Marty succumbs to peer pressure and doesn't call her. Later that night, once again in his lonely rut, Marty realizes he's giving up on a woman who he likes and makes him happy. Over the objection of his friends, he dashes to a phone booth to call her.
I really like this movie.
I do too. This one kind of hit me in the feels because their first date kind of really reminded me of our first date a lot, where we just kind of did stuff, and like the whole time we were just like talking.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't
we
really
talked all day.
It really wasn't about what we were doing.
No,
I mean,
it wasn't.
It didn't help that you pumped me full of like caffeine with
this guy doesn't drink caffeine at all.
The world's largest coffee.
Yeah, it was a big cup of coffee.
It was like a bowl of coffee.
We were in San Francisco, and what do you do in San Francisco? You go and get coffee.
Well, yeah, but I was just all... It was... I mean, it was ridiculously big, but anyway, it was... We just had... It wasn't quite like the two of them, this is in the very, very early days of online dating. This is before the apps, so... you found someone whose profile you found interesting, you emailed, usually the man emailed the woman, and then you kind of, figure, out if you have anything in common, you email back and forth. If that progresses, then you exchange phone numbers, and then you call each other. So we had been in communication for about a month at that point.
Yeah, I think so.
And so, we had our first date, so we already had some familiarity with it. It wasn't like I was meeting a stranger somewhere and we kind of had an instant connection. We already kind of knew we were interested in each other, and then, we had this basically a lunch date that kind of turned into a dinner date, and frankly,
really?
if we probably didn't have to work the next day, we probably would have just kept talking, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to end. I know when I got home, I was kind of like him, where I was full of energy. I didn't sleep at all. I was thinking about the date and seeing you again, and it was just a real magical day.
It really was.
And that's kind of what happens with them is, and we were kind of, we weren't not in a similar circumstance.
I mean, we were at kind of the same age as Marty.
I'm a little bit, Claire was 29, so she was basically our age. We were both 30 when we met.
Yeah.
And, and I was kind of in that Marty mindset where it's like, I've been back on I had gone off the dating scene for several years, but, I'd been regularly dating for like the last year and a half up till when I met you, and it wasn't going well. It really wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, and I really didn't date at all. I didn't, I could identify with what's her name?
Clara.
Clara's character a little bit, because it's like you go to these places and I'm not, this total bombshell person looking. And so I didn't have these guys who would just come up to me and ask me to dance and all that shit. But anyway, so yeah, I get it. I get their whole dynamic and why they gravitated to each other, and how Marty was like, he was so chatty, and he's not a chatty person. This is exactly what this guy did, was chatting my head off, and he's just not a chatty person. And I think he was very excited that a woman was paying attention to him, and he really liked her, and she's a really nice person in the movie.
And that was the nice thing about it, is it was really about, I think they did a really good job of showing this connection between two people, how it, it all happens really fast, but it's also really organic in the way that it happens. He comes across her and he sees she's having a real rough night. Yeah. And he saw it, and he kind of saw the precursor of it, like from afar. And then he saw, basically the guy actually came up to him and was like, I'll pay you $5 or whatever if you go over there and kind of take her on my date. I ran into this other woman I've seen before, and I really want to, reconnect with her. And he's like, I'm not doing that, which I think is really great in the screenplay, is they didn't have him waver on that at all, like thinking about it. I mean, he just right out said, no, that's not right. You came on this date with this woman. You need to be with her. So, he showed principle, and I really like that about that. And then later he sees her, and he already knows what's going on. Like, oh, this guy really did it. Yeah. And, for the most part, she had been, pretty stoic about the whole thing. But then she just has a moment. Everyone has a moment where, all the stuff that's happened just kind of gets to her, and
she just breaks down.
And he kind of, opens himself up to, hey, I get exactly what you're going through. I've been there myself, and and then they kind of, from there they dance, and they talk, and they walk around the streets, and they stop at a diner, and they talk about what's happening in their lives and their ambitions, and it's exactly the kind of stuff that you would talk about with someone on your first date.
Yeah, and I think that it also shows how getting outside influences from people you care about can damage something before it even starts. Like, people have their own opinions of who you should be seeing and who you should be with. And his friend was very upset that he basically spent the whole night with this girl.
Yeah, that whole scene was interesting, because it's like his friend is saying the things like, I want you to find someone, blah blah blah, but what he really wants is someone to hang out with while he tries to find someone.
Well, see, and that's the thing. The thing is that when you have someone who's been single for a very long time, and they develop really special friendships with people, when you go outside and find somebody else, your friends don't know how to deal with that. And sometimes they can lash out and make you feel like you're doing something wrong, and you're not. He was just trying to find somebody, and he's always getting roused about it, and he's like, hey, I found somebody, and he's like, she's a dog. Why would you want to go out with her?
That was one of my big things, and it's been obviously been a Hollywood thing for way back when, is perfectly attractive woman. Yeah. They make her out to be, not attractive. It's like, what world do you live in that, this woman is not considered attractive?
You know what, though? It plays out in real life too. I don't know which came first. I don't know if people were influenced by Hollywood or if it was just always that way, but that's just, if you are not a size 2, tall, perfect looking girl, you are considered unattractive. That's just how it is in our society. That's just how it's always been. Yeah. And I don't know if it's Hollywood or just human nature. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's probably Hollywood influencing, media influencing, but anyway, you watch this relationship develop, and then you see the very real, like, you know, like you were saying, the outside influences, and, you know, he's got such low self-esteem, and he hasn't ever really had a successful relationship, you can tell, that he starts questioning everything about the evening instead of just going by the fact that, one, he connected, two, he really likes this girl, and he was super excited about seeing her again. It's like, you don't need any more than that. Like, if the only thing you can think about is the next time you're going to be going out with this person,
yeah.
You know.
Well, he also had his influence of his mother, who's the traditional, I think any kind of immigrant family kind of relates to this, where she, you know, has her sister, his aunt, who is being kicked out of his brother's home because she's his cousin.
Yeah.
Because she's overbearing and, you know, gets in the way of the wife, so she gets kicked out and brought to Marty's house,
and basically,
and she starts giving his mom ideas of,
it's the exact same thing that's going to happen to you when Marty finds a girl.
And so his mom, thinking about this, like, I'm going to be kicked out of my own home, is saying, oh, you know, she's not Italian. I don't think she's Italian, and, like, just making negative comments about her, even though she knows she wants her son to be with somebody. Yeah. So it's just, it was pretty realistic, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we both have, you know, Italian on, you know, in our background. So this, like, I was watching these two women, and it was like watching my grandmother and my aunts, and it was just like, wow, they really, really nailed this, and they used real, you know, Italian.
Oh, and the guilt.
Women, and the Catholic
guilt, man.
Oh,
that was that. Yeah.
I mean, it was like the just the tone of the conversation, the quips between the two women, where they, they're kind of, throwing barbs at each other. It's just like, it's so realistic. So they really nailed that aspect of it. And
I think too, like, the relationship with Marty and his mom,
it's pretty realistic.
Was pretty real too. Like, he was very devoted to her and really wanted to make sure she was okay. And he had, like, these total aspirations of owning. He knows that the owner of the butcher shop, he's
got an offer to buy it.
Yeah, he got an offer to buy it, and he wants to make sure he's making a good decision, and asks his cousin for advice, and his cousin's so wrapped up in his own BS, he kind of brushes him off about it.
Yeah, and, like, the only person that listened to him about the whole thing was Clara.
Yep.
And, there's something to be said about that, when there's that one person that actually hears you. You know, and they get exactly what you're saying. They understand who you are, what you're about.
Or even they're just listening.
Yeah.
You know? This did win the Best Picture in 1956.
And he won Best Actor.
Did you know that Betsy Blair was married to Gene Kelly?
Did not.
Yeah, they were married at some point. I think they got divorced, though.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is a really good one. It's sweet, and the interesting thing about it is a lot of movies really play up, at least some portion of a relationship. This, all we see is their first date, which is kind of a non-date because they didn't really actually go out with each other yet.
No.
They haven't even officially gone out on their first date yet.
Right.
We see that evening, and then the subsequent day where he's supposed to call her by 2:30 and he doesn't do it, and then all of a sudden towards the end of the evening he's like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
I gotta call her. And then we see the phone call, and that's the end of the movie, where he's like, Clara, hello, Clara, and that's the end of the movie. So you don't know how she is on the other end of the phone. Maybe she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. We don't know, but
I'm sure.
She was entranced with him too. And she was, there's a scene where she's waiting. She starts crying on the couch because he hasn't called. So it's a really sweet movie between two kind of outcasts, and like a lot of real life stuff in it for me. So
what movie just popped in my head that I think if it's not on our side list, we should put it on our side list? The Dog Fight.
Oh, okay, yeah,
That's a really good movie.
that is. It's not on our side list. We'll add it.
Okay.
This is the problem with our side list is it keeps getting bigger.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're going to be able to get through our entire side list by the time we reach number one.
Yeah,
yet.
I don't know.
We have watched a significant number of movies on
I'm
the side
watching
list.
a lot of movies, guys.
Yeah.
It's been a lot. Yeah.
We're probably watching about 10 movies a week right now.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, you want to tell them how we rated?
Yes. I gave it a 69. Jerry gave it a 77. The list score is therefore 73.
All right. We highly recommend this movie, so if you want to check it out, please do. What did we watch it on?
I believe we saw it on Tubi.
Tubi. Okay, so if you want to check out Tubi. If you've seen this movie and like to make a comment or like our video, we'd appreciate it. Please do so. If you have questions, please hit us up on ratingthelist@gmail.com. And I think that's it for now. So I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad.
And we're rating the list. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.